G'day guys, Cam Wild Touring and welcome to this week's episode. This week I want to compare a couple of different drawer fridges that seem to be really popular, and the reason that I'm able to do this video is because we've been selling our Australian made 40 litre Evercool drawer fridge organisers for some time now. And off the back of these, we had heaps of requests to make a similar sort of organiser for the King's 30 litre and the Engel 30 litre drawer fridges. So we finally got around to doing that, and we're absolutely wrapped with the quality and the design and stuff of these organisers. So they're on the website right now. Happy with the price point. They came out really good considering they're Australian made. So thrilled with that. There is a couple of different ways to mount them. They come supplied with a carpet backing so that they can just Velcro straight onto it. And to attach that carpet backing, you'd use a product. This is what I use. This is Quick Grip from Bunnings, a really good vertical adhesive for all sorts of different materials. So that's how I've attached that carpet backing, and then the organiser can just Velcro on. Obviously that's a fairly permanent way to mount the organiser. If you want something less permanent, then you could look at doing a Velcro strip like that. I haven't put enough on this one. It's just to demonstrate what it looks like. That's how I've done this King's one as well. But to get the measurements for these things, to make sure that they fit absolutely perfectly, and also so I could get some photos of them on display, I ended up purchasing a King's 30 litre and an Engel 30 litre drawer fridge. And I thought, while I've got them, it's a really good opportunity for me to run them against each other and do a bit of a comparison video for you guys, because these do seem to be the three most popular options for drawer fridges in Australia at the moment. I did do a power consumption test on all three of these fridges, and the way that I did that was I made sure the battery system on the car was topped up to 100%. I disconnected the alternator and the solar input so that there was nothing putting power back into the battery system. I started each fridge at ambient temperatures on similar temperature days, and I loaded them up with the same ambient temperature products, which was a handful of cans, water bottles, and cordial bottles. So they all were put under the exact same testing procedure, and I measured how much power they used using my Victron shunt. Not a perfect test by any means, okay, but a pretty good indication. Remember that this is not going to be the sort of power consumption that you would expect every 24 hours, because these things started up from warm, cooling, warm products. So the power consumption in this test is going to be higher than what you would get if you were running one of these things full time. And the other thing is, don't get too bogged down on the exact figures themselves. I think what's relevant from that test is the comparison between the three fridges. That's probably the take-home message from it. Anyway, let's get through a bit of a comparison. Starting with the Kings, there's a lot to like. At $299, I think that's the thing that gets most people over the line on one. They are really cheap. For 300 bucks, there is nothing else in the market at that sort of price point. So very good value. Also, considering that it has a 5-year warranty, that's pretty impressive. It is 12 volt and 24 volt compatible, which is the same as the Engel and the Evercool as well. It'll fit 35 cans inside there, so it passes the block test. The Kings drew 5 amp while it's cycling, so it's got a fairly high current demand when it's switching on and off. But over a 24-hour period, it drew 22.6 amp hour, which is very good. I set it to 2 degrees, and on that note, I really do like that it's got a digital display on the outside of the fridge. I really like that it's got an Anderson plug hardwired to it at the back already, so install is really, really simple. I also like that it's got these internal dividers. I think that's really good if you've got sort of half the fridge is full of drinks and the other half is full of food, or if your fridge is half empty and you don't want your cans bouncing around everywhere. They're all the things that I really liked about the fridge, and there is a lot to like. Things that I didn't like so much was that inside the cabinet there's no light. So at night, if you don't have lights inside the back of your car or the back of your wagon or whatever, you might struggle to see what's inside your fridge. The other two fridges do have internal cabinet lights, so I think it would have been nice if they'd implemented that. The temperature range on it is 10 degrees to negative 10 degrees. Now, that means you can use it as a freezer, but bear in mind for long-term food storage, they do recommend that you keep freezer temperatures at around negative 16 to negative 18 degrees. So it will freeze things, but long-term you do want to you want to be freezing colder than that if you're going to be storing food for ages. I also don't love the handle, and this is just how it feels to me because I haven't been running it for long enough or had any dramas with it to actually say it's an issue, but I just think the handle feels really flimsy. It's a plastic latch and there's only one there in the middle. So yeah, oh, yeah. No, that's okay, it worked fine. In terms of reliability, I've only ran this fridge for 24 hours, right? It's not permanently installed in my car, and I'm not planning to permanently use the thing, so I can't really talk about the reliability specifically of the drawer fridge itself. What I can say is I have ran King's fridges before. In fact, you'll remember that in my last 2 trip series, up to the Pilbara, out to the islands on the boat, and across the Simpson Desert and into Fraser Island, I was running a King's freezer on that trip. And I bought that freezer specifically just to do those 2 big trip series. And the fridge did okay. It held freezer temperatures quite good. It is broken now though, and I am gonna have to return it. So it only lasted 4 months, and it's fair to say that those 4 months were a fairly hard life for it. It was running flat out at freezer temperatures, and it did about 20,000 Ks in 4 months. So that's probably more like what people would do in a year to 18 months. But yeah, it only lasted 4 months, 2 trips. The lid's broken. It does render the fridge pretty much useless to me now. But yeah, the seals weren't working really well. And now the lid's broken, so it won't seal at all. So I do have to return it. I'll just get my money back. I'm actually not mad about it because I only wanted to get those 2 trips out of it, and it did those 2 trips, so I can't really complain. But yeah, that sums up sort of my experience with King's products. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Anyway, the Engel fridge. Now the Engel fridge, 30 litre, so same capacity as the King's. Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned, the weight was 17.2 kilos. That's definitely the lightest of the bunch. The Engel came in at 21.5 kilos. Now the Engel's $900 and it only has a 2-year warranty, which is not so bad, but it's interesting that they only put a 2-year warranty on their drawer fridges, but they'll put up to a 5-year warranty on their chest fridges. The temperature range though, it only goes from 8 to -8 degrees. So remember what I said before, you're really shooting for -16 to -18 if you want to use these as a long-term food storage. Power consumption was really interesting. Remember that the King's was using about 5 amp when it was running. The Engel was more efficient as it was running. It only drew 3.5 amp. But over the 24-hour period, it drew 33.9 amp hour, which I think is quite a lot. Bear in mind, when I'm setting the temperature on the Engel, it's different to the King's and the Evercool. Hasn't got a digital display on the outside or buttons to set the temperature. It's got that old school type dial gauge, which Engel were renowned for back in the day. But looking online, most people sort of agree that setting it to about 2 on this dial was your fridge temperature. That's 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. But yeah, and that's one of the things I didn't like about it. I don't like that that's a dial gauge. It doesn't tell you exactly what the temperature inside the fridge is, and it doesn't let you dial in the exact temperature that you want. I also don't like where they've mounted it because it actually affects what you can fit inside this tray. I've heard of people getting things stuck behind it and whatnot. Things move around in your fridge and get jammed behind it. And it's taking up, you know, a fairly small amount of room that you've got in here anyway. I think these are vents on the front. They look like vents to me. They go the whole way through to the back. If they are, I really like that, because often these style of fridges are built into a drawer system like mine is. If that's got some forward-facing venting, then I think that's really clever. I also like that there is a light inside this cabinet. The light comes off the side of the control panel there. Again, the King's didn't have that. I really think it should have that. The Evercool's got it as well. You want to be able to see inside the contents of your fridge at night. The latch, I think, is the best of the bunch. It's got a metal mechanism and a metal catch. It's very solid. I also like that there's some adjustability in that metal catch. But having said that, this is the only drawer fridge I've ever come across or ever used where I've had to adjust one of these drawer catches so that it actually opens and shuts properly. A mate of mine, Glenda's got one of these Engels, and hers was just randomly, when you put some weight in it, was randomly just sliding open and shut when she was driving, and we had to stuff around for quite a while to get that to shut properly. I also don't like the actual depth of the drawer. It's very shallow, so it means that you can't stack things up inside here. It's fine if you're just stuffing this full of cans, and it will fit 35 cans, the same amount as the King's, but if you're putting multiple things stacked on top of each other, you run the risk of stuff falling out. I just think they could have made that a smidge taller, you know, maybe up to the height of the control panel there, and they could have got around that. I also don't like that it doesn't come with dividers. Both other fridges come with dividers, the Engel didn't. I think the price is fair for a big brand, you know, 900 bucks is fair. I don't like the 2-year warranty. I didn't love the power consumption. I think it sucked quite a bit of power, especially when I compare it to the other two fridges. But overall, yeah, I still think it's a really good fridge. It's got some really nice points about it. Talking about reliability again, briefly there. Again, I've not ran the Engel drawer fridge for long enough to have any sort of opinion on the reliability of that unit itself. I have ran Engel chest fridges before and can say that they are fantastic. They've got a really good name for themselves for a reason. They have fantastic resale value. Yeah, I think there's no question about that. That was the Engel drawer fridge. And then last but not least is the Evercool. The Evercool drawer fridge is the most expensive of the bunch. These are around the $1,000 mark. They're also the heaviest at 28 kilos. They'll fit 48 cans, so you can fit 2 cartons inside there, which is handy for those that need to know that. And the temperature range is 10 degrees to -16 degrees. So it's got by far the widest temperature range, and it will get the coldest by a long shot. So if you do want to use one of these fridges for long-term food storage as a freezer, I do think the Evercool is the best there. Now this is a 40 litre, the other two were 30 litres, so when we talk about power consumption, take that into mind. Also consider that when I've done the 24-hour power consumption test, these two fridges were just sitting on top of the drawer like that. They've got heaps of airspace around them to dump all that hot air out. The Evercool was built into my drawer system, so it's a bigger fridge and it's built in. So I would expect it to use a fair bit more power than these two doing the same test. But surprisingly, it drew 4.5 amp while it's cycling, so less than the Kings, more than the Engel. Comparative, really. But over the 24-hour period, it drew 29 amp hour, so less than the Engel, even though it's a bigger fridge and it's built in. More than the Kings. But again, when you consider that it's like, you know, 25% bigger volume, it's used roughly 25% more power, there's no real surprise there. Lots to like about the Evercool, obviously, which is why I went with one. They've also got a 5-year warranty, same as the Kings, which is really good. They are Australian made. It's the only fridge out of these three that is actually made in Australia. Obviously has a larger volume, but it's still low profile. I like that it's got an internal LED right in the middle there, so you can see the whole way through, whereas the Engels was right in the corner, so I think that's nice. I love that the tray is a lot deeper inside here. You can fit, like I said, 48 cans, and that's because that tray is so deep. I like the divider in there, which comes out. On that note, this entire tray comes out. So when I pack for a big trip, I will take this inside and pack it in the kitchen and then bring it out and stick it in the fridge. I find that really, really handy. The other two fridges won't do that. I find the seal on this seems to work quite well. It still is a plastic latch, but it's got 2 latches there. So I think it can sort of pull that door in evenly, so you get even compression the whole way around that seal. So I quite like that as well. And I like that the digital display is on the outside there. Easy to read, easy to change the temperature, easy to see what temperature is inside the unit at any one time. And for all those reasons, that's why I chose the Evercool. I've obviously been running a drawer fridge for a long time. I've had the Evercool 40 litre drawer fridge on and off for about 8 years. Full time around 4 years between the 300 series Cruiser and the D-Max that I had prior to this. Never had a drama with it, and that's why I'm comfortable building that in permanently into a drawer system and making that drawer system suit that one brand of fridge. I don't have an issue doing that. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching, guys. If you want to get one of these fridge organisers, check them out. Got heaps of stock. They're online now. Cheers, guys. I'll see you in the next one.
I know I'm lucky, man, but I don't feel lucky, man.